In working with top producers or even agency managers, I'm asked oftentimes to come in and shadow them for the day to look at their systems or their lack of systems. And I like to think of systems as an acronym for save yourself time, energy, and money. And so with that in mind, a good way to look at it is not just the processes and procedures, but also look at it mentally and emotionally, because we need systems for our mental strength and for our emotional strength as well, because that's what drives everything else. That's the current that's moving this iceberg, right? So with regards to identifying or having an awareness of where a system could save the day, if you will, is notice what you're doing more than 3 times a day. If you're doing something over and over and over that's the same thing, chances are you probably shouldn't be the one doing it, or you could build a system around doing it. So if you can outsource it, delegate it, move it into a system, that's the key. And so an example might be, I was working with one advisor, and they were training somebody new. They didn't have a procedure manual, and the person kept doing the same thing the wrong way over and over. He'd have to come in and keep training, retraining, doing it wrong, retraining, and it got to be kind of an issue. And I simply asked, well, where's the process that she follows? There was nothing there. So it was basically, okay, let her do it, let her write it out. She wrote it out, he looked at it and said, oh, well, you need this in this sequence, this in this sequence. And so sequence makes a big difference, or syntax, if you will. You know, if you say, Johnny bit the dog, that has an entirely different meaning than the dog bit Johnny. Same 3 words, different syntax, means entirely different thing, different outcome, especially if you're Johnny, right? So you've got to look at what are the things that we do on a regular or repetitive basis, and how can we systematize it. So always think to yourself, how can I systematize this? Some of the emotional systems that you can create yourself. I'll give you one that I use for myself, and this is what I use to catch myself when I may be talking negatively or saying something that may be a belief that I don't want to really have as a belief. And I've got used to really listening to this with a critical ear, but here's the system. And a system can be as simple as this. The system is Aladdin's lamp, or the genie. Okay, I've got a little genie right here, and whenever I say something like, you know, oh my gosh, this is going to be tough, your wish is my command. Okay? And if I have that little voice that says, your wish is my command, it really gets me to watch what I'm saying and how I'm saying it, not just to myself, but to people that I work with, to my kids, to my wife, and so forth. And what that does is that creates an awareness. I take a different action, and the accountability drives a whole entirely different outcome than if I'm just busy talking and not really paying attention to what I'm saying. And I'll do this with the clients that I coach. I coach a lot of people virtually over the phone, and I'll hear their limiting thoughts. And we play the game, and I'll just say, your wish is my command. And like, oh, can't believe I just said that. You know, and so it's just something, it's not, again, meant to be punitive. It's just meant to raise their awareness so that they can take a different action and build in the accountability to get the result that they want. So that's just an example of an emotional system that you can do for yourself to get you on track or keep you on track. However, when it comes to your business, there's different systems that you want to take a look at. So as an example, you might have certain pieces of paper that come across your desk, and you may not know what to do with them, and you put them over here, and something else comes and it comes over here, and all of a sudden you're like, what do I do with all this? And then whatever you're working on, you've got a gnawing sense of anxiety that there's something more important in the bottom of this pile over here. Now, does that contribute to your energy or contaminate your energy? Yeah, it sucks your energy out, and you wonder why you're exhausted at the end of the day when you didn't do anything. It's because you have all these energy drains because you don't have the systems in place. So the system might look like, when I get a piece of paper, what are 3 or 4 questions that I need to ask myself around the piece of paper or the email or the package or whatever it is? So here's a couple questions you can ask yourself. One is, what is it? Okay, that's always a good first question. What does it mean to me, and what do I need to do with it, or is it actionable? Now here's a key, here's a good little system for you, is to notice, is something reference material or actionable material? Just that simple distinction is really a system. Okay? Now, I'm not talking about all the other great systems that are out there that you can buy and implement. You definitely want to explore those. But I'm talking about the little 1, 2, 3, 4-step systems that can really make a difference in your life. So when you get something, look at it, determine whether it's actionable or whether it's reference, and then have a place for it. Okay, most people don't have a place for things, and that's why it stacks up on the desk, in the credenza, in the floor, and everywhere else, and then all of a sudden a client comes in, and guess what? You're into straightening the stacks, and it looks neat, but it's still a mess, and it's got your attention, and you're not even hearing what the client's telling you. That's so important. So that you can be more present with your clients and with yourself, get the systems. Notice, is it actionable? And if it is, where does it need to go so you can act on it when you need to act on it? Okay, great system that I like personally, and everybody I share this with, they adopt it real quick, especially if they're in the insurance world, because they can relate to it from the one-card system. Okay, so what we do is, in a file right next to the drawer in the desk, it's 1 through 31, and then another 12 folders, January through December. And what it works is, anything that comes in my way, I look at it, and if it's actionable, it's going to go in this system right here. If I don't need to see it until the 14th, and it's only the 7th now, guess where it goes? It goes in the 14th. So that becomes my in-basket for the 14th. So when I come in on the 14th, I pull that file out, and it's been filled with certain things that I need to see on that day. Great system, but out of sight, out of mind when I don't need to see it, so it's not a distraction anymore. Because see, the mind is a wonderful servant, terrible master. And most of the times we depend on our mind or our brain to run the show. And the way that it works is whatever's most recent and the most emotional content embedded with it. That's what rises to the top. But that's not always the most important thing for us to be doing when we're building our business and serving our clients. This is a system that gets our mind back into being the servant that it can best be rather than the master. The system becomes the master, and we serve the system so that the system and we can serve the clients.